Leo wiped his hands on a rag that was perpetually stained with grease and motor oil. The familiar, earthy scent a small comfort amid the quiet stillness of his modest garage on the outskirts of a town that often felt too large to hold the weight of his grief. The sun had begun its slow descent, casting long amber shadows that stretched across the concrete floor, illuminating flecks of dust that danced in the soft breeze sneaking through the open garage door. For Leo, these small details were reminders of the life he had tried to rebuild after the devastating loss of his wife, a woman whose laughter had once filled the house with light and whose absence left a silence that often felt unbearable. Since that fateful day, Leo's world had shrunk to the two constants that remained: the steady rhythm of repairing engines and the wide-eyed wonder of his young daughter, Lily, whose presence was both a balm and a beacon in his darkest hours. Lily was a curious child with soft curls and a gentle spirit that belied the quiet sadness she carried deep within her, an echo of the mother she barely remembered but loved fiercely through the stories her father told. Leo found himself both protector and teacher, guiding her through the fragile steps of childhood while wrestling with his own unresolved pain, often retreating to the garage where the mechanical world offered order and control that life outside seldom did. On this particular evening, the air held a crispness that hinted at the coming winter, and Leo's mind was wrapped in the familiar comfort of his work when a sudden sound broke through the calm: a sputtering car engine coughing and choking just beyond the gate of his shop. Curious and ever ready to help, Leo stepped outside, the gravel crunching beneath his worn boots as he approached the stranded vehicle. The driver's window rolled down, revealing a woman with a weary smile and eyes that reflected miles of travel and stories waiting to be told. Clara introduced herself with a soft voice tinged by fatigue. She was a journalist, traveling the country in search of untold stories and quiet moments of human connection, a kindred spirit to Leo's own solitary journey. As Leo popped the hood and bent to inspect the engine, the space between them filled with an easy, tentative conversation. Clara spoke of her love for the open road and the solace she found in strangers' stories, while Leo, usually reserved, found himself opening up about the life he had rebuilt piece by piece with Lily after the heartbreak of loss. Their words wove around the metallic tang of the engine oil and the fading light, creating a cocoon of understanding and shared vulnerability. Nearby, Lily watched from the corner of the garage, her small frame silhouetted against the dimming sky. She had been quiet all evening, sensing the unusual warmth in the exchange between her father and this stranger who had suddenly appeared in their lives. There was something about Clara's gentle presence that stirred a tender hope within Lily, a longing for something she could not yet fully understand. Summoning a bravery that seemed far beyond her years, Lily stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper, and asked Clara the question that hung in the air like a fragile thread: "Can you be my mommy?" The words were simple but carried a weight that struck Leo and Clara with equal force, heartbreaking in their innocence, a raw expression of a child's desire for love and belonging. Clara's breath caught and she knelt to meet Lily's gaze, feeling the depth of the child's need and the unspoken invitation for a new kind of family to take root. She promised gently that she would be a friend first, a steady presence who would walk beside them, and with that promise, a bond was forged. Tentative, fragile, but real. From that night forward, the lives of Leo, Lily, and Clara began to intertwine in a way neither could have predicted. Clara returned often to the garage, not just to help with repairs but to share meals, stories, and laughter, slowly becoming a part of the rhythm of their daily lives. Leo watched with a cautious hope as Lily blossomed in Clara's presence, her smile growing brighter, her questions more frequent, and her heart more open. The barriers Leo had built around his own grief began to soften, as Clara's kindness chipped away the loneliness that had settled like dust on his soul. In turn, Clara found in Leo and Lily a sanctuary from the restless pace of her travels, a place where she was no longer just an observer of stories but a participant in one, a part of a family that was healing together. They navigated their new relationship carefully, aware of the fragility of the moment and the shadows of the past that lingered in quiet corners. There were evenings when the ache of loss pressed heavily against their joy, and moments when fear of the unknown threatened to pull them apart. Yet through shared tears and small acts of tenderness, they forged a new kind of love, one not born from grand declarations, but from the steady, unwavering presence of each other's hearts. As seasons changed outside the garage, so did the rhythms of their lives within it. Clara taught Lily to read, her voice soft and patient as she brought stories to life, while Leo shared lessons in fixing engines, his hand steady as he guided hers. Together they created memories that stitched together the frayed edges of their separate pasts, weaving a tapestry of hope and belonging. The small garage, once a place of solitude and silent sorrow, transformed into a home filled with laughter and light. And in this unexpected family, Leo found the courage to hope again, to open his heart to the possibility of love that could grow anew from the soil of shared loss and gentle understanding. The story of Leo, Lily, and Clara became a quiet testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The way a single moment of vulnerability, a simple act of kindness, could spark a connection powerful enough to heal wounds left by tragedy. It showed how families are not only born from blood, but also from compassion and trust, how love can be rebuilt piece by piece when we allow ourselves to lean on one another. Their journey was not without its challenges, but it was rich with the kind of beauty that comes from embracing life's imperfections and the unexpected ways it offers second chances. And as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky above the garage, a new family sat together in the fading light, hearts intertwined, bound by a shared courage to love again, a gentle promise that no one would have to face the darkness alone. Ethan had always been a man of quiet strength, a talented artist whose brushes once danced across canvases in vibrant celebration of life's beauty. Yet since the loss of his wife, a silence had settled over his world, a silence filled with sorrow and a retreat into himself so deep it felt as though the very colors had drained from his existence. The small home he shared with his daughter Chloe was suffused with this quiet grief. Walls lined with paintings that whispered melancholy and solitude, landscapes painted in muted tones reflecting the vast emptiness Ethan carried within. Chloe, a bright and sensitive child with a tender soul, was the living remnant of a love so profound it both comforted and haunted Ethan. She had inherited her father's artistic gifts, her small fingers always clutching crayons and sketchbooks, her imagination a quiet refuge where colors and shapes could express feelings her words could not. Yet despite the warmth she brought into Ethan's life, a fragile loneliness clung to them both, woven from years of isolation and the walls Ethan had built around their lives. Convinced that to protect Chloe from pain, he must shield her from the world, though in truth, he was imprisoning them both in a gilded cage of sorrow. One crisp autumn afternoon, compelled by a restless longing neither could fully understand, Ethan agreed to take Chloe to the local park, a place heavy with memories of happier days and echoing with the laughter of a family that once was. The air was sharp with the scent of falling leaves, and sunlight filtered weakly through branches, casting dappled shadows on the ground. Chloe's eyes brightened as she clutched her sketchbook close, stepping lightly onto the paths that wound between trees and benches. As Ethan watched from a distance, the stiff lines of his face softening in the light breeze, Chloe's attention was caught by a figure sitting quietly on a bench, a woman whose presence seemed to radiate calm and kindness. Isabel, an art teacher with a heart as gentle as the soft strokes she laid on her sketchpad, had settled into the park to capture the world's subtle beauties, twisting branches, fluttering birds, the dance of sunlight on leaves. She noticed Chloe's curious gaze and beckoned her over with a smile so warm and genuine, it could melt the coldest doubts. Chloe approached shyly, clutching her own drawings, and soon found herself sitting beside Isabel, exchanging stories of colors and shapes, dreams and fears. In Isabel's easy companionship, Chloe found the nurturing spirit she had silently longed for, someone who saw her not as a quiet child shadowed by loss, but as a bright soul full of potential and light. Ethan, standing apart, felt a complex swirl of emotions, relief that Chloe was happy, but also a prick of anxiety, a shadow of fear that this new bond might somehow threaten the fragile balance he had maintained. The walk home was quiet. Chloe's small hand slipped into Ethan's, a rare moment of closeness that was tinged with a sadness that did not escape his notice. When they reached the safety of their home, Ethan's voice was firm but gentle as he told Chloe they wouldn't see Isabel again, citing the need for caution, the dangers of strangers, and the uncertain world beyond their doorstep. Yet in his words lay a deeper unspoken grief, the fear of losing Chloe, the fear of stepping beyond the protective walls of sorrow he had so carefully constructed. Chloe's reply was not anger or defiance, but a quiet, aching sadness that settled over her like a shadow, her eyes downcast as she retreated to her room, clutching her beloved sketchbook as if it were a lifeline. That night, Ethan sat alone in his studio, staring at a blank canvas, the weight of Chloe's sorrow pressing heavily on his heart. The house was still, save for the soft breathing of his sleeping daughter, and in the silence, memories of his wife flooded back, her laughter, her warmth, the way she had held their family together with love and light. It was in that vulnerable moment, alone with his grief and hope, that Ethan realized how deeply his fear had blinded him, that in protecting Chloe from the world, he had also denied her the chance to find joy, to form connections, and to heal from their shared loss. The next morning dawned cold and gray, but Chloe's voice broke through the quiet as she looked up at Ethan with wide, earnest eyes, saying simply, "I wish Isabel was my mommy." The words were a soft but undeniable plea, a child's yearning for love and comfort that pierced Ethan's defenses and forced him to confront the truth he had long avoided. He saw in Chloe's face the reflection of his own loneliness, the deep ache for a family remade, for hearts mended and open to the possibility of happiness once more. This moment marked a turning point, a fragile, trembling step toward healing. Over the following days, Ethan began to paint again, the colors cautiously returning to his palette as he transformed grief into hope, sorrow into possibility. He reached out to Isabel, inviting her into their lives not as a replacement for what was lost, but as a companion and friend whose kindness could help mend the fractures left behind. Isabel accepted with grace and warmth, her presence a gentle balm that soothed the edges of pain and opened the door to new beginnings. Together, Ethan, Chloe, and Isabel formed a delicate but resilient family, each nurturing the others with patience, understanding, and love. Afternoons filled with shared sketches, laughter, and whispered dreams wove their hearts closer, and the once muted colors of Ethan's paintings blossomed into vivid expressions of healing and joy. Through art, they found a language beyond words, a way to communicate pain, hope, and love in strokes of color and light. Ethan discovered that love was not about replacing the past, but about embracing the future with open arms and a willing heart. In opening himself to Isabel, he also opened the door to his own healing, learning that vulnerability was not weakness but strength, the strength to let go, to trust, and to love again. Chloe thrived in this new family, her drawings bright and filled with scenes of togetherness and warmth, a testament to the healing power of connection and kindness. And as the seasons turned, bringing the gentle renewal of spring, Ethan stood once more at his easel, no longer alone but surrounded by the love he had feared was lost forever. His brush moved with confidence and joy, capturing not the loneliness of a man in mourning, but the beauty of a heart reborn, a testament to the transformative power of love, resilience, and the unexpected ways that art can bridge even the deepest divides. In the end, the story of Ethan, Chloe, and Isabel was not simply one of loss and grief, but a celebration of hope. The hope that even in the darkest of times, when hearts are broken and souls feel adrift, there is always the possibility of light, of healing, and of love emerging from the most unexpected places. Jacob had never imagined his life would be so quietly full, just him and his little daughter, Mia, on the wide open expanse of their farm, where the earth stretched endlessly beneath an ever-changing sky, and the hum of life was measured in the rustle of wheat and the soft lowing of cattle. After losing his wife years earlier, Jacob embraced his role as both father and mother, finding solace in the rhythm of farm life and the unwavering bond he shared with Mia, whose eyes sparkled with the same wild curiosity that had once drawn him to the land. Their days were painted with the simple joys of planting seeds, chasing butterflies, and watching the sunset spill gold over the fields, a life of quiet perseverance and love, held together by the sturdy hands of a man who understood the soil beneath his feet and the heart beneath his daughter's laughter. It was on one ordinary afternoon, the kind where the sun's warmth wrapped everything in a golden glow, that a disturbance stirred in their peaceful routine. One of the farm's beloved animals, an old mare who had carried generations of calves, began to falter, her breaths shallow and eyes glazed with pain. Jacob's worry twisted in his chest, and he called for help beyond the horizon of his own experience. That call brought Sarah, a veterinarian from the city, a woman whose life was worlds apart from the slow, steady pulse of farm days, but who carried with her a quiet kindness and an undeniable passion for healing living things. Sarah arrived with a gentle urgency, her hands steady and sure as she examined the mare, her eyes softening as she met Jacob's concerned gaze, and then, even more so when she looked down at Mia, whose small hand clung to her father's jeans as she watched with wide, hopeful eyes. Despite the stark differences in their worlds, Sarah's bustling city life, marked by deadlines and skyscrapers, and Jacob's timeless farmstead, rooted in the soil and seasons, something tender and unspoken blossomed between them. Sarah was captivated not only by the farm's enduring beauty, but by the authenticity radiating from Jacob and Mia, a family stitched together by love and quiet strength rather than convenience. Days passed. The mare's condition stabilized under Sarah's careful care, and the veterinarian found herself lingering longer than necessary, drawn into the gentle rhythm of farm life, sharing stories over cups of steaming coffee, and watching Mia race through fields that seemed as endless as her imagination. For Mia, Sarah was a revelation, a bright, caring presence unlike anyone she had ever known, a woman who knelt beside her to watch the ants march and laughed with her over simple discoveries. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and painted the barn's wooden beams with soft light, Mia's small voice broke the comfortable silence. She looked up at Sarah with a mixture of hope and innocence that made Sarah's heart catch, a moment so pure it seemed to suspend time. "Can you be my mommy?" Mia asked, her eyes wide and earnest, the question hanging between them like the sweetest promise. Sarah was caught off guard, the weight of the child's simple, profound yearning stirring emotions she hadn't expected to confront. The idea of family had always been complicated for her, tangled in the bustle of a life that left little room for vulnerability. Yet here, in this barn filled with hay and heartbeats, the notion of belonging felt real and beautiful. Sarah reached down, taking Mia's hand gently in hers, her voice steady and full of warmth as she answered with honesty and tenderness. "I can be your friend, and a good one, I promise. And I'll be here for both you and your dad." The words planted a seed, a small but powerful beginning to something that neither Sarah nor Jacob could have predicted. Over the weeks that followed, their connection grew quietly, like the first shoots of spring pushing through earth thawed by warmth and hope. Sarah's visits became part of the farm's new rhythm, each encounter weaving them closer together in a tapestry of shared laughter, trust, and healing. Jacob watched with a cautious heart as the woman from the city slowly became a presence they all cherished, her compassion and steadiness filling the spaces left empty by years of loss. Mia, ever intuitive, blossomed under the glow of this newfound family, her happiness a testament to the simple, transformative power of kindness and acceptance. Through the seasons, they learned from one another, Jacob sharing the wisdom of the land and the patience it required, Sarah offering her knowledge and the fresh perspectives of a life lived differently, but no less fully. Together they navigated the tender complexities of blending worlds and hearts, discovering that family was less about blood and more about the bonds formed when people choose to care deeply. In the quiet moments, watching stars emerge in the velvet night sky, sharing stories by the fire, and tending to the animals who depended on them, Jacob, Mia, and Sarah found something rare and precious, a field of hope, nurtured not by grand gestures but by everyday acts of love, acceptance, and the courage to embrace the unexpected gifts life offers. This was their story, a tale of healing, of love growing like wildflowers on open land, of finding family not in what is planned or expected, but in the hearts that open when kindness takes root. And in that gentle, enduring light, they discovered that sometimes the most profound connections bloom quietly, in the soil beneath our feet and the hearts we choose to nurture. Noah had always found solace in the rhythm of the docks, the steady creak of wooden planks beneath his boots, and the salty breeze off the water offering a sense of peace amid the chaos of life as a single father. Since the loss of his wife years ago, the docks were more than just a place to work. They were a sanctuary where he could provide for his daughter Emma and still find moments of quiet reflection. Emma was a whirlwind of energy and curiosity, her laughter a bright thread woven through the fabric of his long, tiring days. She was the reason Noah pushed himself harder, working long hours under the sun and in the chill of early mornings, all to ensure she had every chance at a better life. That particular morning, the sky stretched wide and clear over the harbor, the water shimmering with soft waves as the sun climbed higher. Noah sat near the edge, his fishing line cast with practiced ease, while Emma explored the rocks nearby, her small hands picking up shells and seaweed, marveling at the tiny creatures hiding beneath. The quiet was soon interrupted by the arrival of Olivia, a marine biologist who had come to study the local tide pools and marine life. She was a striking contrast to the rough edges of the dock workers, her hair pulled back neatly, her eyes bright with intelligence and a passion for the ocean that was immediately evident. Emma, ever inquisitive, was drawn to Olivia's equipment and the fascinating stories she shared about the underwater world. As Noah listened to the two women exchange questions and answers, he felt a sense of ease he hadn't experienced in a long time, a gentle unfolding of connection that began as curiosity, but slowly grew into something deeper. Olivia's warmth and kindness were undeniable, and Emma's excitement was infectious. They spent the day wandering the shoreline together, Olivia patiently showing Emma how to identify starfish and crabs, explaining the delicate balance of marine ecosystems in a way that made the little girl's eyes sparkle with wonder. Noah watched, heart swelling with gratitude, as his daughter's world expanded beyond the docks and the routines he knew so well. The evening came with the sky streaked in hues of orange and pink, the three of them sitting on the dock sharing a simple meal and stories. It was in those quiet moments beneath the fading light that Noah felt the walls he'd built around himself begin to soften. Olivia, too, seemed touched by the bond forming between her and Emma, her laughter mingling freely with theirs, a testament to the unexpected connections life could offer. The next morning, as Olivia prepared to leave, packing her gear with a wistful smile, Emma clung to her hand, her face serious in a way that surprised them both. "Will you be my mommy?" she asked, her voice small but steady, the innocence of the question carrying a weight that caught Noah and Olivia off guard. For a moment silence fell between them, the gravity of a child's longing hanging in the air. Olivia's eyes softened as she knelt down to Emma's level, brushing a stray curl behind the girl's ear. "I can't be your mommy," she said gently, "but I would love to be your friend always." Emma's face brightened, and Noah felt a surge of hope he hadn't dared to feel before. Over the following weeks, Olivia and Noah navigated the delicate dance of blending their lives, learning how to care not just for Emma, but for each other. They shared quiet dinners and long talks beneath starlit skies, discovering that family wasn't defined by blood alone, but by the love and trust they built together. Emma thrived in the warmth that surrounded her, her laughter a constant reminder that healing could come in the form of new beginnings. Through moments of joy and vulnerability, Noah and Olivia found strength in one another, their bond deepening with every shared smile and gentle touch. The docks, once a place of hard work and solitude, transformed into the backdrop of a story about hope, connection, and the beautiful ways that love, especially a child's love, could unite even the most unlikely people. In time, the question Emma asked that day no longer felt like a wish left unanswered, but the first step toward a family coming together, stitched by kindness, patience, and the simple truth that home is where the heart is. Noah's life was shaped by the steady rhythm of the docks, where he worked long hours hauling cargo and repairing nets, the salt and spray of the sea a constant companion to the demanding routine that filled his days. The work was hard, but it was honest, and it was for Emma, his energetic, bright-eyed daughter whose laughter could soften the hardest edges of his world. Since the day his wife passed, Noah had devoted himself entirely to raising Emma alone, navigating the challenges of single parenthood with a quiet resilience born of love and necessity. Emma, a bundle of curiosity and boundless energy, was the light of his life, and he cherished every moment he could steal away from the docks to spend with her. On a particularly clear spring morning, with the sky stretching wide above the harbor and the water shimmering under the early sunlight, Noah and Emma set out to fish near the pier, a small ritual they both treasured. Emma's small hands clutched her fishing rod awkwardly, her attention more often captured by the seagulls wheeling overhead or the smooth stones scattered along the shore. As Noah cast his line, watching the gentle ripples ripple across the water's surface, a new presence arrived, a woman with a purposeful stride and an air of quiet confidence, carrying equipment that spoke of science and discovery rather than the rough and tumble of dock life. Olivia, a marine biologist, was visiting the harbor to study the delicate ecosystems of the tide pools and the creatures hidden beneath the waves. Her passion for the ocean was evident in the way she spoke, her voice soft but animated as she prepared to collect samples and observe the tiny life forms thriving in the intertidal zone. Emma, never shy when it came to new faces or new adventures, immediately gravitated toward Olivia's gear, the nets, the jars, and the little brushes and the stories Olivia shared about the creatures beneath the water fascinated her. She peppered Olivia with questions, wide-eyed and eager, her youthful wonder a vivid contrast to the tired muscles and weathered hands of the men working the docks. Noah watched from a distance, his heart swelling with a mixture of gratitude and relief as he saw his daughter so alive with curiosity, engaging with someone who treated her questions with genuine respect and enthusiasm. Olivia, in turn, found herself drawn to the pair, a father and daughter whose bond was unspoken but unmistakably strong. She admired Noah's quiet devotion and Emma's unguarded joy, sensing that beneath the surface of their everyday struggle was a wellspring of love and hope. The three of them spent the day exploring the shoreline together, Olivia patiently teaching Emma how to spot tiny crabs hiding beneath rocks and explaining the importance of preserving the fragile marine environment. Emma listened intently, soaking in every detail, her face lighting up with discovery as Olivia helped her understand the interconnectedness of life beneath the waves. Noah, who had long been consumed by the practicalities of survival, felt a warmth spread through him, a flicker of possibility that life might hold more than just hard work and worry. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting golden light over the water, they shared a simple meal on the dock, sandwiches and fruit, laughter blending with the gentle lapping of the waves. Olivia and Noah found themselves talking about their lives, their dreams, and the unexpected joy that had entered their day through Emma's boundless enthusiasm. The evening air was soft and filled with promise, and Noah felt a rare sense of peace settle over him, a sense that maybe this encounter was the beginning of something new. The next morning brought with it the bittersweet reality of parting. Olivia packed her gear, preparing to leave the harbor and return to her research, her heart heavy with the thought of leaving behind the small family she had come to cherish. Emma, who had spent every moment these past days attached to Olivia's side, suddenly hesitated, her usual chatter replaced by a seriousness that caught both adults by surprise. She tugged gently at Olivia's sleeve and looked up with wide, hopeful eyes, the innocent longing in her voice carrying a weight that neither Noah nor Olivia had anticipated. "Will you be my mommy?" she asked, her question trembling with the vulnerability and honesty only a child could muster. The moment stretched between them, fragile and profound as Noah and Olivia exchanged glances, the depth of Emma's need illuminating their own fears and hopes. Olivia knelt down, meeting Emma's gaze with a tenderness that spoke volumes. "I can't be your mommy," she said softly, "but I would love to be your friend, someone who cares for you and is always here." Emma's face brightened with relief and acceptance, and Noah's heart thudded with gratitude for the gentle way Olivia had met his daughter's yearning. In the days and weeks that followed, the three of them began to navigate the delicate dance of forming a new kind of family, one built not on shared blood, but on shared love, trust, and understanding. Noah found himself opening up in ways he hadn't thought possible, discovering that vulnerability was not weakness but strength. Olivia, too, grew more connected to the rhythms of the docks, her life entwining with theirs in ways that surprised and delighted her. Emma blossomed in the warmth and security that surrounded her, her laughter echoing across the piers as she ran freely between the adults who loved her fiercely. They shared dinners filled with stories and laughter, quiet evenings watching the stars reflected in the water, and mornings filled with hope and plans for the future. Through the ups and downs, the challenges and the joys, Noah and Olivia learned that family was not defined by biology, but by the bonds forged through care and commitment. Emma's innocent question had been a catalyst, a gentle invitation to create something new, a family woven from kindness, understanding, and love. And as the tides rolled in and out, carrying with them the ever-changing seasons of life, Noah, Emma, and Olivia found in each other a home, not one of walls and roofs, but one of hearts forever intertwined. Michelle sat rigidly on the crowded subway bench, her body taut with exhaustion and anxiety, clutching the tiny bodies of her twin infants, Baby A and Baby B, whose simultaneous wails pierced the cramped, stale air like a desperate, heart-wrenching symphony. Despite the luxury that her millionaire inheritance afforded her, a spacious home, a private nanny, and every comfort imaginable, none of it could shield her from the raw, overwhelming reality of motherhood, especially now trapped in the impersonal, noisy underground carriage surrounded by strangers who turned their eyes away or scowled in irritation, the relentless chorus of crying babies, the judging glances, and the oppressive weight of unspoken expectations pressed heavily on Michelle's shoulders, driving her closer to tears as she battled feelings of failure and isolation. Across from her, a man sat quietly with his young daughter, Sophie, whose imagination seemed untouched by the harshness that filled the train car. Chris, a single father and part-time children's entertainer, watched the scene with gentle concern, his worn, kind eyes noting Michelle's desperation and the restless agitation of her twins. Sophie clutched a hand puppet, a colorful, fluffy monster whose threadbare fur and faded stitching told stories of countless performances and many moments of joy. The girl's eyes sparkled with empathy as she nudged her father subtly, silently asking him to do something, anything to ease the tension. Understanding the unspoken plea, Chris slipped the puppet onto his hand, breathing life into the character with a soft, playful voice that immediately broke through the tension like sunshine piercing a stormy sky. The puppet's goofy grin and exaggerated expressions, combined with Chris's warm, animated tones, transformed the atmosphere in an instant, captivating Baby A and Baby B, whose cries slowly softened into curious gurgles and then delighted giggles. Around them, the harsh lines of the subway softened as passengers turned their heads, smiles replacing frowns, caught in the magic of a simple act that reminded everyone of the innocence and joy that still existed beneath life's daily struggles. Michelle, who had been on the brink of tears and despair, felt a wave of relief wash over her, her tense muscles relaxing as she met Chris's knowing smile and Sophie's bright eyes, both reflecting a shared understanding of the power of small gestures and human connection. For a fleeting moment, the chaos of motherhood, the exhaustion, and the judgment faded into the background, replaced by laughter, wonder, and a profound sense of community that transcended wealth and circumstance. Chris, whose own life was shaped by challenges and the constant balancing act of parenting, and pursuing his passion for entertaining children, had given Michelle and her twins the greatest gift they could receive, a moment of peace, a reminder that even in the loudest storms, playfulness and imagination hold the power to heal and connect. As the train continued its journey beneath the city, the hand puppet danced and talked, weaving a spell of joy that touched not just Michelle and her babies, but everyone fortunate enough to witness this unexpected act of kindness, turning a difficult day into a cherished memory and reaffirming that sometimes, the simplest solutions, the most playful ones, can bring the deepest relief and connection in a world too often weighed down by stress and expectation. Michelle sat on the hard plastic bench of the subway car, her body trembling with exhaustion, eyes heavy with sleepless nights and the relentless demands of new motherhood, while her twin infants, Baby A and Baby B, screamed in unison, a piercing, unyielding sound that seemed to bounce off the cold metal walls and echo in the ears of every passenger aboard the train. Despite the luxury of her life, Millions inherited a sprawling penthouse, expensive baby gear she could hardly find time to use. The reality of raising newborns had cast her into a vortex of fatigue and frustration. The baby's cries were like a chorus of pain, each shriek a note in a symphony of overwhelmed nerves and endless responsibility. A sound that drew sharp glances, frowns, and whispered complaints from every corner of the carriage. Michelle's heart ached as the weight of those silent judgments pressed on her, making her feel as though she were failing at the most fundamental task of motherhood, as though every tear she shed was a public display of inadequacy. Her fingers fumbled with the straps of the twin carriers, seeking a way to soothe the babies, but nothing seemed to work. The bottles, the pacifiers, gentle rocking, nothing could calm their cries or ease the gnawing anxiety swelling within her. Across from her sat Chris, a single father with a quiet but attentive presence. He was a children's entertainer by trade, a man who earned his living through laughter, storytelling, and the playful magic of puppets. But in this moment, his role transcended mere performance. His daughter Sophie, a bright-eyed, imaginative child, sat beside him, clutching a well-loved hand puppet, a small, fluffy monster with vibrant patches of color, its eyes twinkling with the remnants of countless adventures and smiles it had helped create. Sophie, sensing her father's empathy and seeing Michelle's struggle, nudged him gently. Her small gesture spoke volumes, a silent request that stirred something warm in Chris's heart. With a knowing smile, he slipped the puppet onto his hand and began to breathe life into it, the monster's mouth opening and closing as he gave it a gentle voice, soft, playful, and full of warmth. The puppet's silly faces, exaggerated expressions, and whimsical cooing sounds seemed to cut through the suffocating tension of the subway car, weaving a delicate thread of joy through the air. Baby A and Baby B's cries faltered, their wide eyes focusing on the colorful creature dancing on their mother's lap. The once relentless screams softened to curious gurgles, then tentative giggles that blossomed into joyful laughter, a sound that brought an almost sacred stillness to Michelle's pounding heart. Around them, the atmosphere shifted. Passengers who had earlier cast irritated glances now watched with smiles, some even chuckling softly at the puppet's antics. The subway car, usually a place of hurried anonymity, became a space of shared humanity and gentle connection. Michelle's shoulders, which had been hunched with tension, relaxed as a tear slipped down her cheek, not of sadness but of profound relief and gratitude. For a moment, the overwhelming weight of exhaustion and expectation lifted, replaced by a fragile but beautiful sense of peace. Chris, who had built his life around creating happiness for children despite his own struggles, had given her more than just a few minutes of quiet. He had given her hope and a reminder that even in the most challenging moments, small acts of creativity and kindness could make the unbearable bearable. The puppet's colorful fur, the sparkle in Sophie's eyes, and the laughter of the babies were a balm to Michelle's soul, a reassurance that life's storms, no matter how fierce, could be softened by imagination and shared joy. As the subway rattled on through dark tunnels beneath the city, the unlikely quartet, Michelle, her twins, Chris and Sophie, found themselves connected by this fleeting but profound moment of magic. For Michelle, the encounter was a quiet turning point, a moment when the isolation of her wealth and exhaustion was bridged by the simple humanity of another parent's understanding and playfulness. Chris, too, felt the deep fulfillment of seeing his work and love for children create real, tangible peace in the chaos of life. And Sophie, ever perceptive and full of innocent wisdom, had sparked a moment that reminded everyone on the train that sometimes the loudest storms could be quieted, not by grand solutions, but by a colorful hand puppet, a playful voice, and a shared smile. This small act rippled beyond the subway car, a tender story of resilience and connection that would linger long after the train doors slid open, leaving behind a trail of warmth in a world often too rushed to notice. In that brief, enchanted pocket of time, Michelle learned that motherhood's hardest days could be softened by kindness. Chris was reminded why his work mattered so deeply. Sophie discovered the power of empathy in action. And even the strangers who witnessed this moment found their spirits lifted by the undeniable truth that joy and love, even when wrapped in the simplest forms, hold the extraordinary power to heal and unite us all.